Faridula si manette, doni poina volinette, pina sans mi manicette, d'un affant sur le banc.
Silksong is the latest game by Team Cherry, the guys behind Hollow Knight, but you already knew that because Silksong took the world by storm when it was announced and when it was released last month, I believe. Now, it took me a little longer to do this one than it did for me playing through Hollow Knight, and that's just because Silksong is just infinitely bigger. However, how is Silksong? Well, it's an amazing game. It's really good. I did enjoy playing through it, and there's a lot more positive than there is negative, but unfortunately for hardcore fans of Silksong, I do have some minor negatives, but they are very minor. Silksong is still an incredible game and well worth picking up from the get-go, and its price point is amazing, coming in at its full price, which is like £16.75 here in the UK. The amount of game you are getting for 16 quid here in the that is insane. This is it. You know, this is what we want. Price games accordingly, and you know, if you build it, they will come. They could have charged 25 quid for this, 30 quid, and it would have been worth that. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. The price point for this game is amazing, and yes, it's definitely worth full price. If you want to wait for a sale, you can, but I mean, that £16 is pretty much already on sale. Now, the game looks great. It has great artwork once again, and Team Cherry knocked it out the park with Hollow Knight, and they've knocked it out the park here with Silksong as well. The game looks incredible, animations are really good, and all that kind of stuff as well. It's really top tier, and it plays very well. Hornet plays sort of similar to the Knight in Hollow Knight, but not obviously the same. She has, without use of some items, she has more of a diagonal dive, which I did see a lot of people complaining about online, because there are points where you have to like dive onto roses and bells and that kind of thing, and unfortunately with that one, I have to say that's a skill issue. That's all you, because I had no problem whatsoever. I knew you just have to adapt your gameplay to the mechanics of the game. If the game mechanic is that, then you have to accommodate for that, if that makes sense. So I had no problem with the diagonal jumping whatsoever. There were times, you know, where I weren't thinking and I just missed it, but that was all on me. So that's fine. But Hornet's moveset is pretty good with the things she gets to do, and the bonus added on, like special moves that you can put to RB. They're really cool as well, so I had a lot of fun with that. The music for the game is also top tier. Silksong has some incredible music scores that really add to the atmosphere that's already there, present from the artwork of the game itself. So I found myself sometimes just stopping and listening to the music because I was so impressed. And the level design as a whole is really good, but there is some small pockets of bollocks, which I'll go into a little later on in terms of the difficulty of the game. But for the most part, with the game being so much bigger than Hollow Knight, there's so much to explore, there's so much to see, there's so many optional areas as well, just like there is in Hollow Knight, but it's incredible. Level design is really good, like I said, but with some small pockets of the bollocks. There's also a lot more characters in Silksong than there was in Hollow Knight, and of course Hornet, she actually talks. Well, it's speech bubbled and garbled like Sims talking, but she actually talks as well, and there is so many characters that you can interact with and talk to, and that's where it also just brings the world to life even more so. There are obviously numerous enemies to fight, and once again you can gain a little like journal thing so you can keep track of them, and a lot of the enemies are very awesome to fight and really cool. However, what the first big negative, this one is a big negative, and I do have to be honest with this one, is that there are far too many annoying flying enemies for my liking. And by that I mean that the gameplay's core mechanics, without you fiddling with anything, is not built for fighting flying enemies that fling shit at you, but also whilst flinging shit at you and you go to try to get them, they fly away from you. And couple that with the terrain of its platforms over spikes or over lava or whatever it is, it doesn't make for an enjoyable experience. There's a difference between being hard and challenging and being hard and tedious, and that's what that is when you're trying to get those flying enemies, but there's also other enemies around on the ground as well, which have got their own move sets, and you're trying to dodge those, coupled with the fact that the game for the most part gives you double damage on a lot of enemies. which yeah, that's another negative, is the double damage thing. I'm not a big fan of that, if I'm honest. I got no beef with some bigger bosses doing double damage to you, but yeah, I'll get onto that momentarily. There's also not enough benches, which of course are the save points in Silksong and Hollow Knight, and where you can equip different charms and different equipment items and stuff. There's just not enough of them around, and there are a couple of trick ones which I've got no problem with there being, but there's just far too much space in between benches, and yeah, I do not like that. The side quests are handled a lot better in Silksong than they were in Hollow Knight. You actually have a tracker for them now, and you can help like build up a little. I don't want to spoil too much. I don't know how much people have played, but anyway, you can assist. You can assist people and places in a few different ways, which is pretty cool. So there is plenty of stuff for you to get stuck into besides just following the main story. All the different equipment options that you can equip to Hornet, again, are great. You can customize her playstyle to however you want to play it and whatever you want to do, so that's pretty cool as well. It's like I said earlier, that all the locations in the game are fantastic. The bosses are also very, very challenging and do require you to keep locked in. Of course, it's all pattern-based, and you just have to get good, basically, and just learn the pattern and just lock in and get it done. But the double damage thing does obviously make it a little bit more spicy, but some of them, there's a handful which are just pure bullshit. They're awesome, but it's bullshit with the amount of stuff they fly at you in the game, and you're just... Oh, you have to be like Neo in the Matrix when he realizes he's the one and he's fighting, you know, the agents. You've got to just lock in and just duck and weave, evasive maneuvers, and just try and get in as many hits as you can. The game, like I said, the game is absolutely huge overall, especially if you wanted 100% it. And for me, at the end of the day, I think the game is phenomenal. However, it's a tad too punishing. With the double damage that you take from nearly all enemies and bosses, even if you just accidentally just run into them or touch them, all the runbacks from the benches to the bosses, for the most part, are bullshit. They're far too long with far too many enemies in between that you can't easily dodge. You have to just consistently keep fighting through. And of course, just like with Hollow Knight 1, when you die with your bells on you and your little gizmos, and your silk, that will be left. So then you have to get back to that, just like in Souls games, to regain all the stuff you dropped. If you die between, you know, the bench and getting back there, they're gone. So that can be very annoying. There are a lot of vendors that you can buy things from and items and stuff, and you can of course upgrade Hornet's or pin weapon thing. So there is plenty for you to spend your hard-earned dosh on that you find as well. There's also a second currency in Silksong than there was in Hollow Knight, where you would use it to replenish consumables like throwables, like you can get throw-in stars and that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool as well. But it's like I said, I love Silksong and I think it's an incredible game, but it's a lot more challenging than Hollow Knight, and sometimes just rides the line hard between just being hard and plain annoying. But it's definitely one of the better games of the year, even though it was very difficult. I didn't do everything in the game. I will go back through it in the future and do a proper, like, sink my teeth into playthrough. But that's what I did with Hollow Knight. I just beat Hollow Knight with the basic bitch ending, and then I went back to it, and I've been doing everything I can, all the nooks and crannies, and I fell in love with Hollow Knight. Silksong, I have fallen in love with, but it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. It's 80% love and 20% hate, because it's just, there's just some design choices with the punishing nature of it and the flying enemies and this and that I just find that I think they did deliberately just to make the game hard. They kind of went, no, we just need to make this harder. Yeah, let's do that. Even though for the most part that's bullshit. You gotta I don't know, you gotta plan it out. I'm not a game developer, so I don't know how to explain it or articulate it, but just because you put a load of bullshit and throw a lot of stuff at people to make it hard, yes, that will be hard, but at the end of the day, games are meant to be, played to enjoy, and just in small pockets, and at times I had to put Silksong down, hence why my review is coming out at the end of October, and it's taking me so long because I had to put the game down and walk away because I would have thrown myself out the window because it was very frustrating at times. But I definitely do recommend picking it up and supporting Team Cherry because £16 here in the UK for all of this game. And if you love a challenge, you will definitely get a challenge here in Silksong. But it's just, yeah, just bear that one in mind that it can sometimes just be bullshit. I know there are going to be people in the comments that are going to say, "Oh, get good. This guy's not good." And you're right. I'm not a super sweat lord. I don't spend all my waking hours just hammering Silksong, so I do apologise on that one. But please let me know in the comments down below what you think of Silksong. And as always, thank you very much for watching.
Nesvia